we arrive here at the main business center of Kathmandu, which was like the main business hub during the Silk Route time. And this was the place where people used to stay in a sort of residential inn going back to Tibet and India during their trading times. And on my left here is one of the finest building in pagoda architecture, which is dating back to the 17th century. Pagoda is meaning like an umbrella, but this is like a very native architecture of Nepal. We are gradually heading on to the Old Heritage side, Kathmandu Durbar Square. While we just get going with the tour in Kathmandu city, one may experience an awesome rickshaw ride. And sitting on the tricycles, you can do the rock and roll, going through the amazing back streets of Kathmandu Durbar Square. Welcome to Kathmandu Durbar Square, and on my right you see the large temple, which is dating back to the 16th century, is one of the finest model in pagoda style, and that's dedicated to the goddess Kali, known as a Thalezu Bhavani. And with that, now we have a huge statue which is made up of a one piece of the stone from the 17th century, is the wrathful form of the god Shiva, and we call him Kal Bhairav. And that's a masterpiece work, and he's known as a god of truth, justice and terror. Arrive at the central square of the place called Hanuman Joka Durbar Square, with a wonderful display of the beautiful arts and crafts. You know, right here, so that's just known as a Sikar style, which looks like a peak in a shape, is a roofless architecture. There's a statue of the King Pratap Malla, one of the finest king during the Malla reign, who did a massive contribution for the medieval arts and architectures. And then on my left, you can see there is a three-story temple dating back to the later part of the 16th century. This very monument in Kathmandu city, I would like to let you know that we happen to get through the massive, let's say, the devastation that happened on behalf of the UNESCO Archaeological Department of Nepal. Even the China government, they are trying to help for the massive renovation project. So that's what we can still see. The buildings are pretty much messed up. All right, guys, now we're going to observe one of the best part of the royal palace. And right next to us is a beautiful statue of the monkey-faced god, like a keen devotee of the god Rama. Since there is a statue of the Hanuman, Joka is like a gateway, Durbar is the palace, and the square is an open courtyard. That's what we would love to call it, as a Hanuman Joka Durbar Square. We have now entered to the one of the finest complex within the Durbar Square of Kathmandu, and this part of the palace, which you look at there, with the beautiful portraits of the different rulers that ruled over the history of Nepal. And I would like to definitely recall the unifier, the ancestor of the present king, one of the best loved king ever in the history of Nepal, King Prithviraj Shah. But the history about the Gurkhas are none other than this gentleman who's nicely getting dressed up, wearing a black and a white uniform, and he looks pretty smart, and he does truly represent as a part of the Guruji Paltan. And I would like to talk about this courtyard. Is known as a Nasal Joka, which means a dancing courtyard. And back in those days, the coronation ceremony of the king and queen used to be held out here. And there is a day that happens in October, which we have one of the biggest festival known as a Dasai. So that's what we call it as a Dasai Ghar also. That's just a mixture of the old and the new palace together. And this very special building, which is from the 19th century, used to be a ceremonial palace. In fact, this is taken as an influence of the neoclassical base from England when the Rana Prime Minister visited the England, and after the visit he started imitating in a typical British style. So this is like a ceremonial place for the Honorable President, Prime Minister and the dignitaries to enjoy the activities which would be held out here. These are the fabulous straws which are made up of a typical teak wood. In fact, there was the golden era in the history of Nepal during the Lichavi and Malla periods. So this sort of arts and crafts have been massively developed here. So we could see these straws all fallen apart during the biggest mishap. Talking about the restoration project, we have a group of artisans representing from the Newari communities who have been pretty much skillful in terms of doing the restoration work, which they have been doing like an inherited parental profession over the generation, and they're still trying to carry on. He's trying to make an intricate design, which you look at there in the shape of lotus flower. Eventually, we have come to the Kumari temple. Just behind me, there's a golden window with the 15 different well-carved wooden windows, which is known as a Kumari Ghar, or the house of Kumari. The living virgin goddess, probably you might have heard and read about. Kumari is the word which means a virgin girl. So there is a belief in Nepalese Hindu and a Buddhist culture, a girl coming from the Sakya clan, sounding pretty much similar to that of the Buddhas. And she should have a similar horoscope chart like the royal king of Nepal. And she would be selected at the age of 3 to 5 years in age. And she shouldn't have any scars and birthmarks over her body. So that's the way the selecting committee is going to choose the girl. And she would be tested inside a 3-story temple, and after that the girl is supposed to reside over that building. You all can see the golden window. There are the days every year, so she comes out to the public. So Kumari in fact is the true representation as the key symbol of the mainstream of the national integrity in Nepal here. In every 7 to 8 years of time, the Kumari gets selected. Regarding the cancellation part of the Kumari, when she gets her very first puberty period, and after that she won't be remaining as a goddess any longer. So she's gonna go back to her normal life. This is the biggest focus during our sightseeing trip of Kathmandu, to view our Kumari, the living virgin goddess. Let's go inside the Kumari temple, and you can see a beautiful door right here with a nice tympanum, and there is a little intricate carved figure of the goddess Kali, known as a Taleju Bhavani. So this is like a masterpiece work full of wonderful carved works with the skulls all around. So now we are here, and there's a little courtyard inside the complex. So normally Kumari is not supposed to come outside. So all she can do is she can come outside 13 times a year during the special times of the year. I would like to thank you all for coming with me.